One of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen is Michael Powell and Emeric Pressburger's 1946 film A Matter of Life and Death. There's no spoiler warning for this one because I can talk about why I love it without discussing the second half of the movie. But just an overview of the premise, the movie opens with Peter Carter, a Royal Air Force pilot who's flying a damaged Lancaster bomber. His parachute is destroyed, so he's confident he's going to die. June is a radio operator who converses with him briefly before he jumps. Even though Peter and June have never met and Peter is literally about to die, they talk about loving each other during that very brief conversation. Normally that would rub me the wrong way. I just don't think people fall in love that quickly. But oddly enough, it didn't bother me in this movie because I figured adrenaline was kicking in because Peter was about to die, and people would probably say some pretty ridiculous things in that situation. And it's such a unique scenario that I can't relate to. But more importantly, there's a humor and self-awareness to this film that makes it work. So Peter inexplicably wakes up on the beach even though he clearly should have died after jumping without a parachute. At first he thinks he's in the afterlife, but he quickly realizes that by some miracle he's still alive. This movie is a fantasy where there are guides who are supposed to escort people to the other side or the afterlife. Conductor 71 was supposed to be Peter's guide, but there was a thick fog and he couldn't see him when he jumped. So Peter didn't make it to the afterlife. Coincidentally, Peter runs into June on that same beach and they immediately fall in love. Conductor 71 shows up and explains the situation to Peter and urges him to accept his death and come with him to the afterlife. But Peter demands an appeal because his situation changed due to Conductor 71's mistake. Peter was willing to accept his death when he jumped without a parachute. He knew he was going to die. But since he wasn't escorted to the afterlife or the other world at the right time, he fell in love when he was supposed to be dead. So he believes he should be allowed to stay alive since he would have never met June and fell in love with her if it weren't for Conductor 71's mistake. That's pretty much all I need to explain about the plot in order to discuss why I think A Matter of Life and Death is life-changing. I think this is one of the most life-affirming movies because it makes being alive seem so beautiful. Obviously, Peter jumped without a parachute because he didn't have much of a choice. But if you've ever felt like you're at the end of your rope and you're ready to give up, this movie makes you realize how drastically our lives can change in less than 24 hours. For example, my life has pretty much never been worse than it is right now. The past year has been awful. I've done pretty much everything within my power to fix my situation to no avail, so every day I keep hoping something will magically happen so things can finally start getting better, and it never does. But if I give up today, what if tomorrow's the day I run into someone who just hands me $1 million for no reason? I know that's completely unrealistic, but what are the chances of June and Peter running into each other when Peter was supposed to be dead? It's a fantasy, but fantasies give us something to cling to when things get dark. And I can tell myself it's ridiculous, my life won't be better tomorrow, because I've endured a constant string of tomorrows where things just kept getting worse. But I'll never know for sure if things will get better or not if I'm not there to see tomorrow. Basically, if I jump out of a plane without a parachute today, then how am I going to fall in love with June on the beach tomorrow? The way this movie uses color in black and white emphasizes what I'm saying about the beauty of being alive. The scenes that take place in the afterlife are in black and white. Side note, the set designs in this movie are on another level. This movie is just stunning. But I found the decision to make the afterlife black and white fascinating. I believe Martin Scorsese even discusses this in the documentary about Powell and Pressburger, but they chose to make the scenes on Earth so rich, vibrant, and colorful. And the juxtaposition with the black and white of the afterlife really highlights how beautiful it is to be alive here on Earth. Powell and Pressburger could have easily made their version of the afterlife look like this gorgeous paradise, but they didn't. It's still beautiful because the whole movie is gorgeous. But it's as though they used a story about the afterlife to convey this idea that life on Earth is worth living, and I just think that's really inspiring.